So today I want to talk to you about some myths when it comes to surviving that can actually kill you. Let's get to it. So I've been reading a lot of stuff, a lot of different blogs, talking to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people have some misconceptions about what surviving is really going to be like. So here are some of the most common ones I hear that I would like to challenge. Number one is that surviving is going to be like camping. Now, for the first day or two, this might seem like it could be, but it's going to be so much further than camping. So when you go camping, you're usually there for a fixed amount of time, over the weekend, for a week, anything like that. So if you're somewhere for 2-3 days and you have to go without a shower or without taking a bath or keeping cleaned, you're probably okay, because you're going to come back home, you're going to get to do that. In a survival situation, that's going to be a long term, so you're going to have to figure out for however long it's going to be, a month, a year, 2 years, indefinitely, how to keep yourself clean, how to keep sanitation up, not only for you but your clothes, and you're going to have to figure out how to do that on an ongoing basis. Also, one of the misconceptions is when you're camping, if you run out of something, if you run out of food, or you run out of shelter, or you're cold, or you're hot, you don't have enough stuff, you just jump in your car and you go to the store and you get it. In a survival situation, that's not going to be how it is. So while you might be prepared enough to where the first couple days it might seem like camping, survival is not going to be that way. It's going to be long term. You're eventually going to run out of stuff. Places are going to be overcrowded. So that's one thing I want people to understand. Just because you're good at camping doesn't mean you're prepared for a survival situation. The next one that I hear is that you do not need a predetermined bug out location. And I think this is very dangerous for people to get in the mindset at. So I hear people say, well, I live close to a national forest, I know some great spots. I don't necessarily have one picked out or set aside, but I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to disappear if it happens. And the danger with that is, how many people from that area or close to that area or who've ever visited that area have the same idea? So while you might go out there on a weekday and it be completely empty, if something does happen and the crap does hit the fan, how many people are going to flee to that area? People know that it's there. If it's in a forest or a national forest, chances are people's been there before. So you're going to get there, and not only are you not going to have it alone, but you're going to have to fight for what you have. So thinking that you can just disappear and find it ad lib, find a place to live, is going to be very hard. It's not going to be as easy as it might be, say like in The Walking Dead, where you stumble across the prison or something else that you can take over. You really need to have a designated bug out location that you've thought about, and then you're ready. Not only that, if you don't have a location, which means you haven't been taking stuff and putting it there, how long is your bug out bag going to get you anyway? So yeah, you're going to have stuff in your bug out bag to help you get to where you need to go, but you're not going to have years worth of food or security or that in there. So having a bug out location is more than just having a place to retreat to. It's being able to store your supplies for a long period of time. The next one is you can eat all the raw meat and raw fish you want. And I know they show a lot of that on some different TV series. In fact, there's just one survivalist who does it all the time. But the fact of the matter is that raw meat has pathogens that could really affect the human body, and if you get one dangerous enough, you could actually die from it. And the same thing with fish. Now, whereas you can do this every now and then, and it might be safe and okay every now and then, I would highly recommend not to get into the habit of doing it. So be sure you're prepared enough to not only catch the food, get your meat, get your fish, but cook it. Because eating it raw all the time is a risk you shouldn't be willing to take. Alright, the next misconception on surviving is being the hero and cutting and sucking out the snake venom. And while this is what Hollywood likes to say, and it makes really good movies and really good stories, the fact of the matter is that it does not work that way. What you're doing when you cut open a snake bite is you're just actually making the infected area bigger. You're making the cut bigger, and then you're putting human spit inside it, which makes it more apt to infection. So you do not want to ever cut and suck out a snake bite. You want to wrap it up, put a bandage on it, and get them to the doctor as quick as possible if you don't have any anti-venom. The next myth on surviving is that moss always grows on the north side of the tree. And this just isn't true. Coming from the South and living in the South a lot, there are places in the South where the moss grows on the south side of the tree because that's where the sun comes from. So if you are looking to route your path based just on moss, I would really suggest you know the area, know the types of trees, know the moss, know where the sun is, because if you're just depending on the moss being on the north side of the tree, you could be going backwards. All right, the next one is that you can drink your urine when you're dehydrated. Now, you can actually do this, but it's a last-ditch effort. And it's the last thing I would put on the list. Urine has things in it that will make you sick. So if you do not actually just throw up from the act, which is very dangerous, it could dehydrate you more from all the sodium and everything that's in there. So do not think that drinking your urine is going to get you through any long-term situation. The next thing on the list is that you can eat what animals eat and you'll be fine. And that's just not true. Our biological makeup and anatomy, though some are the same, is different. And animals can eat things that will make us sick as human beings. Let's look at squirrels. They do eat a lot of nuts that human beings can eat. But they also eat some mushrooms and some nuts that'll make humans very sick and could kill them, could poison them. The same thing with birds. There's some berries that birds eat and some other animals eat that are very toxic to human beings. So it's good to have a list of edible plants in your area and not just go based off what the animals eat, because that could kill you. Okay, the next myth on surviving is that fire always beats shelter. And this just isn't the case. There have been times out there where people have frozen to death even though they had a fire. You need to pick shelter first and build off that shelter. You want to break the wind, you want to break the elements, you want to break the rain. And besides, even if you do have a big fire set up, if a big rain comes or a big wind gust or that comes, you could lose the fire just like that. So you want to always start with shelter and then improve on it from there. So put shelter first, put fire second. Okay, the next myth is that wet matches will still light when they are dried out. And this isn't true. There's chemical makeup in the match heads that once they're wet, even though you dry them, they will not light again. So always get the waterproof matches and put them in a waterproof containers. Carry a lighter, carry other kinds of ways to start fire, because if your normal match gets wet, it's useless to you. Okay, the next myth is that you do not need to boil water. And I have seen people who were way up in the mountains in Colorado or even in Alaska, and the water is crystal clear. They get down to where there's a little waterfall and they're getting into flowing water, and they believe that they don't need to boil it. And a lot of people have died from that or gotten very, very sick. It is always safe just to boil your water. And there's different ways you can do it to make it easier. You get filters and that's fine. You never want to put the cup in facing upstream. You want to put it in facing downstream so the things flying or coming with it is not going to get in there like bugs and other things like that. But once you fill it up, if you don't have a filter, you need to practice boiling your water, because there are some pathogens of that in there. Even if it's crystal clear water, that could still kill you. The next myth is that the lone wolf will always survive. And that's just not the case. While it's good to be a lone wolf and be able to survive by yourself, you don't need a group of people because you're knowledgeable and you've got the skill set, there's going to come a time where there is strength in numbers. At one point, you're going to get overrun. You're going to get overrun with people. You're going to get overrun with chores, with animals. The more people you have in your group, if they're a close-knit group and you trust them, is always going to be better than going at it alone. And finally, your Netflix playlist will save you. Listen, there are a lot of good things to watch as far as reality shows go and survival shows go to get your mind thinking. But none of them are 100% accurate. They make it, number one, to be entertaining on TV. So they're leaving out a lot of the basics. Walking Dead, even though they are very good shows and they show how hard it could be to survive, they leave a lot out of there, and a lot of the practical survival out of there, because they need it to be good TV. So while it's good to watch some shows and get some ideas, nothing beats getting out there yourself, putting yourself through a situation like that, and seeing if you can survive. So just don't go over watch time on TV shows. Go on actual putting the work in time, out in the field, out camping, running drills. That's what's going to save your life. Well, there you have it, some of the myths that could get you killed when it comes to surviving. I hope you guys found value in this. If you did, please be sure and give us a thumbs up. Be sure and share this with somebody who might need to see this, who you might need to save their life. I appreciate your time, and as always, guys, remember, prepare, survive, and thrive.